Hello, hello, and welcome back to Sikich Live. I am your host, Mike DeGeeter, and it doesn't look like my camera's on, but now it is on. Hi, everyone. I'm coming to you here from Chicago, Illinois, and we're going to have our guest, Marc Punzirudu from Sikich here, join us in just a bit. Today's topic is all about deciding on an MSSP provider. But before we get to that, don't forget to like and subscribe to make sure that you get all of our notifications. We come on each week, Thursdays at 2:30 Central Time, talking about business or modern workplace applications, cybersecurity. We've got Salesforce topics, IT infrastructure, managed services, and of course, so much more. As a reminder, all of our Sikich Live shows are recorded and they are available immediately on whatever platform that you're streaming from, whether that's our Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube pages. Also, don't be shy on Sikich Live, like we always say. Make sure to add your questions into the chat. We'll have Marc here today get to those as soon as we can, if we've got some time. Excellent. Well, first off, today, our newer format starts out with our fact or fiction segment, and then we'll go into a Q&A session after that. But before we get into the good stuff here, let me introduce Marc Punzirudu. He is the Director of Cybersecurity here at Sikich. Hey, Marc, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing excellent. Like I said before, it's just a little bit of a gloomy day, so I think after this is a perfect time for a rainy nap. That's really what I'm hoping for. So, appreciate you being here, and let's get right into fact or fiction. Does that sound good?
Yeah, let's go.
Perfect. Okay, so we're talking all about MSSP providers today. And our first fact or fiction question for you, Marc, is only small businesses can benefit from an MSSP. Is that fact or fiction?
That's a big fiction. I think in being around the industry for a long time, the largest companies in the world make regular use of MSSPs. Smallest businesses too. It's all over the place.
Sure. What about is using an MSSP is too costly for my organization? Fact or fiction?
Generally fiction.
Mm.
I think that there's a service size that fits all. It depends on understanding where you're at and what too costly means. But I think that it's not one size fits all.
Sure. Using a third party or outsourcing will make me more secure. Fact or fiction?
Ooh, so generally that's fact. That's the goal, is for that to be fact. Right. So in a successful relationship, I would say that the objective is to make you more secure.
Right. But it's really about that partnership as well, too. Ensuring that works together will then hopefully make you more secure, at least from what you were before.
Yeah, it'd be very rare. Somebody would be recommended to spend the money on a partnership that made you less secure.
Right. Yeah. Let's hope it's not that. Right. Okay. Number 4, fact or fiction. Using a third party is going to make you free from breaches and you won't be liable for them.
Huge fiction.
Right.
IT supply chain has been under attack for a couple of years now. It's nothing new. I think there's lots of examples in the news of where this maybe isn't true.
Absolutely. Okay, so this goes back to a little bit about that partnership question, but number 5, our last fact or fiction for today, a MSSP is an extension of my organization.
As much as the last one was a big fiction, this one's a big fact.
Yeah.
Right. The only way to make a partnership is to treat them like a partner and bring them in and communicate and have a great relationship. So.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for answering some of our fact or fiction questions there. Let's move on to our next segment here, our question and answer segment. So, Mark, what sorts of businesses can really benefit from an MSSP?
So I think with this, it's easier to talk about businesses who have objectives and how easy they are, how easily they're finding to meet those objectives. You can't think of it like company size or specific verticals or specific industries. It's really all businesses generally can benefit from using an MSSP. It's just to what extent, how deep they're going, what kind of involvement, all those things vary depending on the business case. But the important part to drive home is the idea of leveraging a partner to help you mature your security program is about shoring up gaps and holes to address risk. It's in some industries have more risk inherently than others, but all businesses have risk. If you're doing anything electronic, there's some form of risk.
Sure. So, and I want to reiterate, I don't know if I said this before, but an MSSP stands for Managed Security Service Provider, right?
Correct. You'll hear lots of acronyms in our industry. So yeah, it's a good
Yeah.
idea to stop and spell it out: Managed Security Service Provider. You also hear MSP pretty frequently, which is referencing a managed service provider. So maybe not doing security. We're talking about the security guys.
Right. So, why do organizations consider using an MSSP? What are some of the major drives or perhaps triggers that bring people to need an MSSP?
So this is all over the map, but there's a couple that are pretty, I would say, widely major factors in consideration for using an MSSP. One of them, I kind of lump it together, is timing and maturity or capabilities, maybe. And that's where you have a risk and you have to do something about it. Let's say that you have a compliance requirement, you have mandates from your board, you are increasing shareholder and stakeholder confidence, consumer confidence, doing the right thing by your customers' data, whatever it might be. You have some business driver that says you have to address security, and you decide that you need help to getting it done faster. You need help getting it done better, maybe more mature than you're capable of rolling out initially. Perhaps you need to leverage a third party due to their capabilities to scale, where maybe you building your own program would take too long and be too hard to maintain because you're very agile. Those are all sort of related because that's part of the buy versus build discussion. Build your own security services versus use a partner. And the other one is cost. Which you see this more and more as you go upstream, where there's actual significant financial benefits to outsourcing too. So it's usually some combination of those. How mature do you need to get? How major of a project is it for you to accomplish? How fast do you need it done, and how much is it going to cost? Those things typically generate a business case that'll tell a company if it's a good idea or not to leverage a partner.
Yeah. So in our fact or fiction segment, we really focused on a little bit on the importance of a partnership, right? And that can help make your company more secure and more successful working with an MSSP. So I think a really good question there is, how do you select the right MSSP to make sure that partnership is successful?
So this is funny. This is an area where my advice probably has changed a lot over the years, and it's because of the maturity of the industry now. I would say that there's enough MSSPs out there that you really can afford to be selective. So you need to look for a group of people that you have confidence in to be able to work well with your company, because in talking about a partnership, culture is a big thing involved, or a big part of that too. So whether it's customer service, the way that you interact with executives and account managers and the delivery teams, and there needs to be some positivity. So in order to make a partnership work. Another one is you have to pick one that's knowledgeable in your industry and with your technologies. If there were only 5 or 6 MSSPs, maybe my advice would be different, but there's enough out there that find one that understands what you do as a business, because again, that partner, the more that they can bring to the table, that with their in-depth understanding of how you do business and learning about your company, they're going to have better ideas for you. Understanding your technologies. If you're in the cloud and you're using a vendor that primarily does workstations and servers in an office, it might not be your best your best fit. So it's making sure they fully understand the technologies, not only what you're using today, but also where they need to go. If you're planning on moving to the cloud, you need a vendor that's skilled in digital transformation and can help you do that. You don't want to stop using one partner and move to another every 18 months because you can never build that partnership. So, and the last kind of summing it all up, I suppose, is that they are willing to understand your business and propose propose what's best for your business, not necessarily go down a price sheet and just put everything in your shopping cart and have a good day. It's really important that they sit with you and understand your business objectives, your budgeting, what you're trying to accomplish, your risk appetite. They should be skilled in talking to people to understand that better, and help bring a service to your business that that's going to benefit you the most.
So there's a lot of services, right? That a lot of options for services. How do you know what the right services to outsource are?
So I'll say the most consultant answer imaginable and just say it depends.
Right. Yep.
No, so there's a service for everything and anything that you could think of. If there's a security product attached to it, there's somebody that will service it and support it. If there's a control that's within some regulatory framework that's capable of being outsourced, there's someone to do it. So in order to select, what's right for you, I think first is taking inventory of what you have. So, and what I'm going to walk through is sort of a risk assessment approach, if you would, because it is the thought process of engaging with an MSSP is really a risk management decision. It's not an IT decision. It's not even really a security decision. It's a risk decision where the organization needs to do certain things from a security perspective, and they have to reduce risk to an acceptable level, and they're going to choose to use a partner to do so by treating the risk using bringing in a partner that can service them. So instead of saying things granularly like antivirus and endpoint protection and managing and monitoring alerts in your security operations center and firewall management and all of these other things, at the end of the day, you need to take an inventory of what your organization has, understand where your organization wants to be, and then your list should be filling in that gap or maturing the things that you do have that perhaps are beyond your capabilities. And a good MSSP partner is going to be able to sit down and help you understand what those things are and how to document them so you can come to that conclusion. They're going to work with you to do what's right and best because that's what long-term partners do.
Yeah. So what are some of the risks with using an MSSP?
Well, we can talk about the elephant in the room first, which is security incidents.
Yeah.
It's been in the news a lot. It's there. Obviously, I said it earlier, the IT supply chain globally has pretty much been under attack perpetually for months, if not years. And it is a common thread that has occurred through a number of incidents where there have been issues. But I think it's important to not let maybe the fear and uncertainty around some of that messaging sway somebody from the fact that there are some very good, very skilled, secured organizations who are net reducing your risk by helping you. So I think it's important to be cognizant of the fact that your organization is responsible for the risk, whether you're outsourcing it or not, and you have to address that properly. That's an okay decision, not to be put off by some of the incidents that have been out there in the media over the last year. Those things do happen, but part of vetting the right partner is reducing the likelihood of that happening and making sure that it's less likely to happen than if you didn't engage. Right. So it's all about risk reduction. So past that negative, bad, mojo of talking about data breaches and things like that, I think some of the risks are complacency, set it and forget it. Businesses need to make money on their investment just the same as it needs to remain to be an effective investment. So when you're paying a vendor to do something and you're treating them like a partner, it's really important to continue to work on the partnership, mature it, work together to figure out what next year is going to look like, plan and be proactive. When you don't do that, you end up just paying for some check boxes. And that is what some folks are in the market for. And it's often better than doing absolutely nothing. But if you're going to spend some money, you want to get the most out of it and make sure that your security program's doing well. So I think complacency is one of the big ones, where there's just a lack of communication, whether it's one way or another or bi-directional. And, maybe the MSSP loses sight of who the business is and what their goals and objectives are. And then you start losing all that functionality and benefit that I talked about earlier.
So let's talk about avoiding risk, right? What are some of the common best practices with managing the MSSP partnership so that those risks don't happen?
Yeah, I think that the best thing you can do is just like with any business arrangement. If you go into a store and you buy something, you buy one item, they ring up one item, it's on your receipt as one item. That's an explicit contract. I paid X for Y. So the better you can document your expectations, the better everyone's going to be. When an MSSP knows exactly how you feel about something and where the bar is, then they have something to measure against. And then the same on the side of the business. It's hiring an MSSP. They need to know where the bar is so that they can hold, the MSSP accountable to that, or support them and be part of the process to make sure that everyone's at that bar all the time. I think setting up a regular cadence of communication right out of the gate, whether it's quarterly executive check-ins where you can review KPIs and talk about what's happened. Maybe it's monthly, maybe it's twice a year. It will depend on the relationship, but you need to have a cadence to sit and communicate with them, go over current state of the program, future state of the program, issues, how they were resolved. There needs to be a very transparent, open line of communication around that. And then really last but not least is you have to have a method to evaluate the security risk of the MSSP. So that a good partner, if you go to them as a business and say, I'm concerned about cybersecurity within your organization and the risk that you present to my organization, should be able to supply you with adequate documentation about what frameworks they have in place, what control sets they use, how they audit it, how they test it. They should be able to give you assurances around some of that. If you aren't mature enough as a business to have your own vendor management program where you can vet them and have your own questionnaires. There are things like third-party certifications. I find that that's not always a guarantee. Sometimes it's a little more assurance than others. Sometimes it's not. But there's plenty of ways to go about that. But it's important to understand the security risk the MSSP is going to bring onto you and what their plans are for their business to protect themselves and their customers too.
Excellent. Well, Marc, that is all the questions that I have for you today. I appreciate you being here. Thanks again. I want to remind everybody that if you have any questions, comments, or anything at all, please feel free to email us at sikich.com. We can definitely get you to the right person. Make sure to put in Sikich Live in the subject line as well. You can also, I'm sure Marc would be just fine if you reach out to him directly on LinkedIn, as well as anybody else at Sikich. Thanks for being here today, and we will be back next week, Thursday at 2:30 Central Time. Bye-bye.